Hello there, everybody. Super Jordan Reviews here, and we're finally going to be able to finish our ranking of all 20 MCU movies. Now, if you're coming in not seeing part one, I recommend that you see that one first. Now, even though I'm going to be changing up like the way I talk about these films, because really these top 9 films have a very special place in my heart, with the exception of, I want to say, 2 of them. I've seen all of these in theaters, and I just want to really like share like how strong my experiences with these movies were, and you're probably just gonna be all like where I am on the list. And I'm very sorry if this is an hour-long video, because I didn't expect my other video to be so long either. But it ended up being like an hour long. When really I wanted it to only be like half an hour long. So I apologize in advance if this is a 2-hour video. Also, I ranked my number 20 to my number 10 in the last video, so let's do a quick recap real quick. So number 20, I have The Incredible Hulk. Number 19, I have Iron Man 2. Number 18, I have Thor the Dark World. Number 17, I have Iron Man. Number 16, I have Iron Man 3. Number 15, I have Avengers Age of Ultron. Number 14, I have Ant-Man. Number 13, I have Thor. Number 12, I have Ant-Man and the Wasp. Number 11, I have Captain America, the First Avenger. And at number 10, I have Doctor Strange. Yes. And now, just another heads up. I'm going to go full spoilers into all of these films, including Avengers Infinity War and Ant-Man and the Wasp, although I already talked about Ant-Man and the Wasp. But, so if you have not seen that, then I recommend that you click away, because, come on, I can't see why you haven't seen it yet. It's been like 3 months since it's been out, but just a warning though. Yeah. And then as you can see, I am live streaming it like last time, so what I'm gonna be doing like last time is, once people start coming into the live chat, I'm gonna have like a live discussion with you guys about the movie that I'm talking about. So once I'm done like with my ranking of the film, I'm gonna see what you guys say about it, and then we can have like a little live discussion about it. Yeah, but no one's in the chat yet. They might join in a second though. So yeah. Alright, so with the further ado, let's continue our list. So, at number 9, I have Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok to me is a film that I wish I loved as much as everyone else did, because it's a film that, while yes, I do definitely really love this film, I didn't like have as many like fond memories with it as most people did. Because to me, I've always preferred the Guardians films, but but in the end, I still enjoyed what Taika Waititi did with this film. The visual, like the color palettes in this film are absolutely gorgeous. There are so many gorgeous shots in this film, specifically with the part where Valkyrie was seeing her past. There is some beautiful shots and cinematography in that. Yes. And then, by far, in terms of action, Taika Waititi is probably up there with. He definitely doesn't beat the Russos, but he has some of the best action in the MCU, with the immigrant song fight scenes, including in the beginning, was awesome. The Thor and Hulk fight scene was awesome, and the final action scene on the Rainbow Bridge was awesome. And then what else? Hela, while she kind of disappointed me as a villain, she was very well done as a villain. Kate Blanchett was great as the character, and she actually had a little bit more backstory than I expected. Like, I never expected her to be the sister of Thor and Loki, so it really brought more to the table, with how Odin is basically the worst father in the MCU for, besides Ego, for the stupid decisions that he made throughout the film. And then, obviously, this film is done by Taika Waititi, so this film is pretty dang hilarious. there's some pretty funny moments with throughout this film. The, like like the part where Thor went up to Hulk and said, "Hey, big guy, the sun's getting real low," and then in general, Thor kind of took on like a new character in this film. Like rather than going for the Shakespearean type of humor, he's more of a different kind of comedy guy, which I was okay with because I think I like this Thor more than the Shakespearean Thor, despite the fact that I actually really did enjoy the first Thor movie. Now, on to the problems that I kind of have with the film. While I did say that there are some beautiful shots, some of the green screen effects kind of looked a little unfinished, I'd say. And then another thing, like, even though the film is very funny, there are times where I feel like the humor was landed at the wrong time. Like, I know people always blame Volume 2 for putting humor at the wrong place, but I mean, while I can see what they're talking about, at least the humor felt natural. Like, it felt normal for the characters. And I felt like it didn't really like ruin any scenes for me. But here, I feel like many of the scenes would have been way more emotional if they just laid off with the jokes. I mean, for example, when they had to leave Asgard and it was being destroyed by Surtur, Korg just makes a, a joke about how oh, everything's gonna be fine, and then it explodes and he's all like, oh, never mind. I mean, I get that you're trying to like make it more comedic, but I mean, why? And then Odin's death in the film. Wow, the first time watching it, I found it very emotional. The film just carried on like it didn't care. Continued to just be a super fun action movie, which I'm fine with, but I wish. I mean, I'd probably put it much higher if they at least try to like care for the audience and give more emotions besides just being super fun, which is what the Guardians films I'm going to be talking about later, which is what I feel they do. But this film just lacks. Yes. And then, don't get me wrong, Korg was funny, but I never really got why people thought he was like the best part of the movie. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I still thought he was pretty funny. Hey, my name's Korg. This is Meek. We're gonna head up on the spaceship. You wanna come? Yeah, I like those scenes, but I think you guys get what I mean though. Yeah. So, Thor Ragnarok, I really enjoyed it, but it just didn't stick with me on an emotional level as much as the other films. But I still had a blast with this film because of how fun this movie was in general. Yeah. Oh, and also Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster, just perfect casting, just hilarious. And then Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie was really good, and I hope she returns in the future of the MCU because I have no idea what happened to her in Infinity. I mean, I know she escaped, they confirmed, but I hope she returns in the MCU. I hope she's in Avengers 4 and she goes alongside the remaining Avengers and helps them fight Thanos. Even if it's a small role, because I really, oh, that's another problem I kind of have with the film. I feel like now maybe they'll resolve it in Avengers 4 if they like show what exactly happened to Valkyrie and half of the Asgardians, but I really didn't. Now this is also Infinity War to blame as well, but it just felt empty because I know when Thor finally sits on the throne, it kind of finishes his story arc. But I mean, what's the point? I mean, they undo that in the next movie when Thanos comes in and now let's just assume that the Russos never said anything and we just go off of what happened in the movie. Then basically, what's the point of bringing all of Asgard onto the ship if they're all gonna die? Yes. Now, hopefully, Avengers 4 will resolve this conflict and they'll reveal what happened to. Because I remember Thor did say that Thanos killed half of his people, so yeah. and I believe they did confirm that Valkyrie is alive. We don't know about Korg yet, though. Yeah. So let's continue. At number 8, I have Black Panther. Black Panther is another really good film. Now this is like Thor Ragnarok. This is a film that I wish I loved as much as most people. Although I don't get like I don't really talks. I mean, I know I talk a lot of trash about Thor Ragnarok, but I really did enjoy it, and I don't really talk trash about Black Panther as much as Ragnarok. Cause I feel bad when I'm very, cause I loved Ragnarok and I love this movie too, but yeah, I think this movie was just very overhyped with just because of the big cultural aspect that it had. And don't get me wrong, it definitely had a big aspect on the cultural standpoint. But I just didn't find this to be like the best MCU movie like many are referring it to be. I mean, I wish other movies had a high Rotten Tomato score like this one. I mean, it has like 97 or 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I still loved Black Panther. The best, the thing I loved the most about Black Panther was the world building and the characters. The area of Wakanda feels like a real place, and it really like feels like a, it's a real place that you can go to, and they establish as this big world, and how it has all the vibranium. It feels real, and the world building was very well done with the concept of Wakanda. And then the characters were just really good in this film. This probably had one of the best villains in the MCU, probably top 3. Killmonger. Oh, Killmonger brings me up to another point that I forgot to mention with Tella. I'll talk more about him later though. But Chadwick Boseman did really good as Black Panther. I really like Black Panther's character, or T'Challa's character. I really like that they made him like a king that really just wanted what was best for everyone. But even then, he has to make sacrifices, and sometimes he makes the choices that he shouldn't, which really was a good story arc for him. And I really like even though action wise, I thought he did a little bit better in Civil War. His action scenes were relatively great in this film, and I really like how they really do portray him as a very good man, and how they were saying that he was a good man, but it was hard for a good man to be a king. That was a really good aspect that I liked about this film. And then Shiryu is one of my favorite she's just one of the funniest characters in the MCU. I mean, other than the "what are those" scene, that scene was cringy. I thought she had a lot of really funny lines. Like, I don't want to I don't want to use a Wakandan accent, so I'm not gonna say any of her lines, because I know in the comments section someone's gonna be like, "You have a horrible Wakandan accent," so I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do anything. Yeah. And then I really like the Okoye. She has her own character in this film. Just really every character has their own personality, you know. Along with M'Baku. M'Baku had like one of the funniest parts of the film where he was telling Everett Ross that he was gonna feed him to his children, but then he was like, "No, we're vegetarians." Yeah, that part was pretty funny. And then I really liked the part where what was it called? Oh yeah, that's right. I really liked the South Korean scene where South Korea scene where they were chasing Ulysses Claw. It was really well done. Now Killmonger, yes, he's definitely one of the best villains in the MCU. Wow, he barely shows up in the first half of the film. I really like this character. I felt you can easily empathize with him at the point where he doesn't really feel like a villain, because in a way what he's doing is right, and we actually got to see his backstory, and we actually feel bad for this guy. Sure, the things that he's doing to accomplish his goal are wrong, like how he's trying to start like a war and how he's being a tyrant king. But we can see why he wants to accomplish his goal and share the vibranium with the rest of the world. It makes sense. Now, the thing I didn't like about Kim, like it's not nothing towards his character. It's more what the writers did. Now, even though I really liked his death, I wish he stayed alive longer because they wasted him as a villain. Because I thought he would have been a very well done side character for like the rest of the films. Like, I really wanted to see him help out in Infinity War and future Black Panther movies. Although he wasn't as wasted as much as Ulysses Claw. Ulysses Claw could have been a great reoccurring villain where he always does stuff that stops the Avengers or just characters in general in the MCU. But no, they had to kill him off. And that really annoyed me. I wish that they kept him alive longer. Although then again, that's not really a flaw, it's just more something that I wish would have happened. Although I think this is a good transition to go into flaws. I only really have two big flaws I can think of. Like one, some of the visual effects in the final act, like the rhino and the vibranium cave thing, looked rather fake. I mean, I guess the Black Panther versus Killmonger final fight was really just Black Panther fighting another version of himself. Although then again, they made it more unique and different, so it wasn't the same as like, oh, Iron Man versus Killmonger, Hulk versus Abomination, or Ant Man versus Yellow Jacket. Yeah, something like that. But and then my only other flaw with the film was that it felt like it was two different movies. The first and second half were just they just felt like two different movies to me, you know. Like the first half of the film, the main villain is Claw and the goal of the and this film's goal is to stop Claw from stealing the vibranium, while the second part of the film is dealing with Killmonger, his past, and him dealing with T'Challa, and then T'Challa getting knocked out, and then he comes back Lion King style to take back the throne. Yeah, that's another problem I had with the film. The second half of the film felt a little bit like The Lion King, which is fine because The Lion King is an awesome film, but obviously, what's the better film, Black Panther or Lion King? I think it's obvious that it's Lion King. Well, in my opinion, at least. There's probably someone watching this that likes Black Panther more than Lion King, which I respect your opinion. Yeah, but despite what I'm saying, I really did enjoy Black Panther. Yes. So, coming in at eight, no, number seven, I have Spider-Man: Homecoming. Spider-Man: Homecoming was a really great film in my opinion. It's everything you kind of wanted in an MCU film. It has good action, it has good humor. However, the thing that makes it a little lower for me is that even though it's a great MCU movie, I didn't feel like it was a great Spider-Man movie. I thought it was just a good Spider-Man movie, but a great MCU movie, if that makes sense. It just it's not really the Spider-Man film that I wanted, which I know I know I'm just nitpicking, but I just felt like they didn't make Spider-Man as good as I wanted him to be, like in Civil War, I'd say. Like for example, now I'm gonna use the Raimi films as an example. Now, don't get me wrong, Tom Holland, in my opinion, is a better actor for Spider-Man slash Peter Parker than Tobey Maguire. Although the thing I liked about the Raimi Spider-Man, now we're not gonna talk about Spider-Man 3, that's out of the question. But something I liked about the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was that they actually like go into his problems with school, and and with Mary Jane, and how he has to make sacrifices. Like the main part of Spider-Man 2 was that sometimes he has to sacrifice the things that he wants for the greater good, which I can tell that Homecoming tried to establish that, but I feel like they didn't show the consequences enough, or show like as much concern on Peter. Like Peter never really went, I wish I was at the dance with Liz right now. Yeah, he never did that. And yes, I know that this film is much lower staked, and I like that. I like that it's just Spider Man has to stop this guy from selling weapons. I like that about the film. But I just wish that they showed more like concern with Peter, and how some how he had to make sacrifices that had consequences that he did just so that the world would be better, or that so that he could stop the bad guy. But I just feel like they didn't do that. And something that I liked about Peter in Spider-Man in Civil War was that I felt he was very relatable. Yes, he only appeared for like 10 minutes, but I related to him with how he's dealing with like school, and how he like talks a lot. But here, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still related to him here, maybe a little more than Civil War, simply because he has way more screen time. But it wasn't as much as I was hoping to. Like, I didn't have a personal connection with him like I did with Tobey Maguire's. But I like this film more than Spider-Man 1, not Spider-Man 2 though. Because John Watts knows what he's doing with the franchise. Nice. I mean, he knows how to make a good MCU film. Because, despite my, like, complaints with how it wasn't the Spider-Man film that I would have liked it to be, it still had really nice, unique Spider-Man elements. Like, we're not spending, like, 10 minutes with just full-on Spider-Sense scenes, which I'm hoping we do. I mean, I want to see some Spider-Sense in the future, but I respected that they didn't use it in this film, because that's been very overdone. But I like how unlike the Raimi films, they actually like established that Peter had a they like the one scene where Peter didn't have any buildings or trees to like swing on, and he had to run around, just run around. I really respected that about the film, because they just didn't they didn't use the lazy route and be all like, oh, he's just shooting the sky with his webs. No, they went the actual more the route that made more sense. Yeah. And then Michael Keaton's The Vulture was fantastic. Great villain. You can, like Killmonger, you can actually relate to his past, and you can understand why he's doing what he's doing. And you can actually see that he respects Peter for saving his daughter, and that he's not some psychopath like Thanos or Killmonger. And I really respect that about Vulture. And let's see who else. Ned was really funny in this film. And then Liz wasn't the best love interest for Peter, but I can still see why Peter liked her. Although, then again, at the same time with Liz, like something I don't want to just be a guy who just compares this to the original Spider-Man, but I felt like if they showed more of like how much Liz meant to Peter, then that would make a little bit more stakes for the film, I'd say. Like when Peter ditched her at the dance, Peter should have said, Liz, I'm sorry. I mean, no, not that, but like they should have showed more like concern with Peter, and that he truly was like more sorry, because they kind of just bye, and then they just continue with the story. Yes. And then I'm not a big fan of Zendaya as MJ. Now I'm not sure if she's actually gonna be a love interest for Peter Parker. I I don't really see that though. I felt like they should have cast some. Like, I'm not trying to be like racial or anything, but I just don't see it. I'm sorry. And then yeah. Now, something that I really did like about this film that really did show like a lot of relatability to Spider-Man, at least for me though, was Tony Stark being in this film. I really felt that, even though he wasn't in the film much, I really thought he brought of a very like valuable lesson to Peter in this film. And that was his quote, "If you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it." That was a great quote by Tony Stark. And the scene where Peter was under the debris and he was trying to he was asking for help, and he was all like, and then he remembered what Tony told him, and then he thought to himself, "I am Spider-Man and I can do this." That part really got me, and I love that scene in the film. It was that probably made the movie better for me, I'd say, because I loved that part of the film. It's just brilliant. And I hope Far From Home has scenes like those. Yeah. I'm really excited for Far From Home. Now, coming in at number 6, I have The Avengers. Now, The Avengers is a film that I really want to rewatch. I've only seen it like 1.5 times, maybe 2.5. And I really need to rewatch it because it's just such a great film. It might be higher upon rewatch, but it's just such a great film. I mean, now this was the Infinity War of back then. People were like so excited for it, and with how they were building it up. And so many people thought that this was going to be a flop, but in the end it was really good. I wish I really wish that I was like an MCU fan at the time, but I wasn't until later. Now, oh, this was way before I did like my MCU stuff, and then oh yeah, and there was one more thing I wanted to add with Spider-Man Homecoming. I have a big like special place in my heart for Homecoming because of the fact that it brought in like a new tradition that I had for Marvel, where I go with my church and we go see all the Marvel films together, because Marvel is that one franchise that no matter what, when I go to the movies to go see a Marvel film, I do not go alone. I try to go with a big group. Doctor Strange, I didn't go with a big group, even though that was like my first MCU thing. And then Guardians Volume 2, I went with my mom. But then but I just go with a big group for my church for ever since Homecoming. Yeah. And I want to share more of my experiences later with when I get to Infinity War. Yeah. Now, I wish I saw the Avengers in theaters, but I wasn't able to. And I've heard that the Battle of New York looked so great on the big screen, and I wish I could have experienced that, cuz the Battle of New York was an awesome fight scene. Yeah, the Chitauri's just a disposable army, but I mean, come on, this is the first time that they did it, and for the first time, like seeing this for the first time must have been really amazing. Then this film also teases Thanos for the first time, and and kind of the Infinity Stones. I mean, we don't know that the Tesseract is an Infinity Stone, but it does bring it up for the future. Although then again, the Tesseract was technically introduced in First Avenger. Yeah. And then I really like the character interactions. The actors in this film have really good chemistry with each other. Like Evans and Downey really brought the banter really good, along with Thor. Thor was really funny in this film as well. And then well, Hawkeye was like, yeah, Hawkeye basically just was out for the first 2 acts of the film. Yeah. And then I really like the Thor and Hulk fight scene. And then Loki was a really great villain. He's definitely one of the best in the MCU. He's probably like my number two, I want to say, or easily top three though. Although then again, I'm starting to like Loki a little more as a character than a villain because of the big story arc that Loki went on throughout the films. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. I mean, I know I was a little brief with the explanation, but I mean, most people have already said what's been said about the Avengers and how great a film it is. Yeah, and I just mean go check it out. I mean, I don't see how you haven't seen this film yet. I mean, it's been having so much hype for the last 6 years. So at number five I have Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This is a film that I definitely liked more and more as I rewatched it. I've seen it probably 4 times now, and every time I've seen this film, I've just liked it more and more. When I first saw it in theaters, I thought it was just okay. This was before my Marvel fandom, but I was kind of out of it. But then rewatching it, I thought it was just good. Watching it again, I thought it was great. And then the last 2 times that I saw it were just better and better. Now, I wouldn't see why it's like better than like Civil War, Guardians, or Infinity War, but I still really do think that this film is just so good. The film just feels very interesting. Like it's one of those films that keeps you in your seat throughout the entire film, and they offer like so many things for you. It has everything you want in an MCU film. It has like some of the best hand to hand combat in the MCU. It has not the best humor, but it has really good humor in this film, which are the two things that I really like from the MCU: action and the humor, and the characters too. Because while I definitely loved Steve Rogers in the first Avenger more than most people, for most people, this is the film that really brought Steve Rogers as a like one of the best Avengers for most, as it shows Steve Rogers still transitioning from the 40s like to nowadays to modern days, which is why I really like his suit in this film. It really does good as a modern version of his old suit. Uh, the Winter Soldier was awesome in this film. His fight scene with Cap was probably one of the best fight scene hand to hand combat scenes in any MCU film, and even his final action scene with the Winter Soldier was really awesome as well. And I really liked how they brought Bucky back into this as the Winter Soldier. Alexander Pierce was really good in this film as well. He's a very different kind of MCU villain. Like he's not the one just going out there punching Captain America in the face, but he's the one who's causing everything that's going on, which I thought was a very interesting twist to the film. And then Black Widow joining in was a very well done way to bring a good team up into the film, similar to what they did with Hulk and in Thor Ragnarok. I really like the way that they did this. They didn't just throw her in there for no reason. She actually has a purpose in the film, and what was my train? Dang, I lost my train of thought. The film really does great with the action. Like I said, this was the introduction of Falcon as well, who is definitely one of the funniest characters in the MCU. I really like his line in the film. Hey, this is the where he was calling that one guy from Hydra, and he was saying, I'm the handsome looking guy in the sunglasses." Anthony Mackie's just perfect for the role of Falcon. He makes the role hilarious. And then I really liked Nick Fury in this film. Sam Jackson gave a great performance as usual, and he brought like a lot of funny scenes to the table and some rather serious lines as well. Although even though he did fake his own death, which classic MCU trope. Yeah. Now, no one's even in the chat, so I'm just having a solo conversation. So if this goes by a little faster than usual, then it's because there's no chat. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Winter Soldier. I guess I just don't put it higher because I really have a personal connection with my top four. And while I really love Winter Soldier, it doesn't have as much of a connection as the top four does for me. Now, my number four and number three can go either way, but at number four, I have Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians 1 is just. It's such a great film. I know I kept talking about how there's some mysterious favorite hero I have, and I guess I might as well say it if you didn't guess it already from my logo. My favorite superhero is Star Lord. I just really have a personal connection with him. I mean, I was hoping Spider Man, Tom Holland Spider Man, gave me a connection that I had like with Star Lord, but it just couldn't end up happening. And I really love Star Lord. I, he just has a very nice connection with me, and I really relate to his past, and I understand him. You know, like his part where he lost his mother was very emotional, and while it doesn't keep the same tone for the rest of the film, it definitely like makes you like it makes you understand Peter as a character and why he's like a flawed character. And like I'm gonna talk about it more in Infinity War, but just the flawed part of Peter Quill just really makes him a more compelling character in my opinion. And then I really like the rest of the Guardians too. It just Star Lord is just the one that I have the most personal connection with. Rocket, my second favorite Guardian. He's really good in this film as well. I really like his no care attitude and how like Peter, I like that they made him a very like flawed character as well. Where in reality, the only person he ever had in his life was Groot, but then he lost Groot in the middle and like towards the end of the film. But then at that point, he realized that Groot wasn't his only friend, and that he had other friends too, like Peter, Gamora, and Drax as well. Even though they did make a baby Groot at the end of the film, then Groot brought in like a lot of heart to the film as well, with how he you know, I really like his personality with how he cares. He might be my favorite version of Groot, even though this is the lowest film I have with the Guardians in it. This might be my favorite Groot. I know people love Baby Groot and all, but I just feel like adult Groot really brought in the charm, brought in a little bit more charm. I was hoping Teen Groot like would be as good because Teen Groot like has what I like about both characters. You know, he has he can fight like Groot, but he has like that cute charm, like cute family charm as Baby Groot, until he's just a teen. But that didn't really work out because he barely had screen time. But Groot was just really great. And then unlike Baby Groot, he could actually fight like for a long time, which I really enjoyed. Groot has really unique powers, and he definitely brings heart to the film. The We Are Groot moment was really emotional. And then the Gamora is definitely a really great character in this film. Although this does bring a big part that I really didn't like about Infinity War, with which I'll mention more when we get to Infinity War. But I really like Gamora. I like her more than Black Widow because I see her character as more like compelling, I'd say. And then Drax, he's just really funny. I like his backstory. He has a lot of funny lines, like how Rocky was saying, metaphors go over all of these people's heads, and then Drax was like, nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast. I thought that was a really funny scene from Drax. And then, in general, this film is just hilarious. This is probably, besides the second Guardians, this is probably, in my opinion, the funniest MCU film. Just because of how funny the scenes are. Now, I think the thing that really keeps this film from being higher on the list was more because Ronan as a villain is he sucked. Ronan is a garbage villain. I mean, he's forgettable. I mean, we don't even see his motivations, so he's just bad because he's bad. And he wants to destroy Xandar because he's bad. And he's trying to get the Infinity Stones because he's bad. And I mean, some of the decisions that Ronan does at times are stupidly hilarious. Like how Peter was just all like, "Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Ooh, child, things will get brighter." Right in front of him when he could easily just destroy the whole planet. That was stupid of him to just be distracted by Peter. That was stupid of him. Yeah. And I mean, I guess another problem I do have kind of comes from Infinity War, but it's just a lot of the film was just cut out because I mean, the whole goal was to save Xandar, but I mean, what's the point? I mean, Xandar was destroyed by Thanos in Infinity War. Now, to be fair, it's not as bad as the Thor Ragnarok trope because with Thor Ragnarok, it was more they're trying to get the Asgardians to safety, but they end up dead. And even though the Xandarians were trying to get to safety, it wasn't just about the Xandarians. Like, the whole part of Ragnarok was Asgard was a place, not a. I mean, Asgard was a people, not a place. But here, it was more just setting up the Guardians and how they were a family. Yeah. And they still are. Yeah, they kind of bit the dust, but they're still together. I mean, do you guys really think that they're gonna stay dead? Yeah. And then, I really love the Infinity Stone sequence. I thought it was really beautiful. It was probably one of my favorite scenes in the MCU. Maybe even my favorite. It was just such a great moment where Peter finally learned to let go of his mom dying, and that he had more and that his family was right next to him. Like when Gamora told him to hold his hand, it was such a beautiful scene where they ended up like bonding together and became one to defeat Ronan. That was such a beautiful scene. And then the soundtrack in this film is just amazing. I like Volume 2 a little more controversially, but I still love the soundtrack. And plus it has my favorite song from like the entire like series as Ain't No Mountain High Enough, which I really loved. It was used perfectly at the end. It really capped off it brought a very satisfying end to a great movie. So I think I talked about Guardians for a while, so let's move on. At number 3, I have Captain America Civil War. Like I said, number 3 and 4 can be interchangeable. I think I put Civil War a little higher because this film has much better action and a much better villain than Guardians 2 Volume 1 does. Because the villain in, like I said, Ronan was horrible. And while I felt like Guardians isn't really known for action, Civil War has probably, besides Infinity War, it probably has the best action in the MCU. The airport scene was awesome. I wish, like with the Battle of New York, I wish I was able to see this in theaters and see how awesome this was in theaters, because it must have been amazing. Like how, yeah, like how, yeah, it just was awesome. with how they had so many heroes on screen at the same time that were duking it out. Yes, it was amazing, and it brought like new ways for the heroes to use their powers easily. The Russo brothers are probably the best characters, like the best directors to like in terms of using these characters. In fact, they might be the best directors in general for the MCU with how well they handle all these characters together. They're able to handle like how much screen time each character has cuz I didn't feel like any characters were like left out. And plus in the end, this was Cap's story still. And so it makes sense why they focus on Cap. And like with Winter Soldier, this is a film that gets better and better each time I watch it. Now, I've always loved this film, like, from the first time I watched it. But at the same time, I didn't understand why I loved it. Until I rewatched it again and liked it more. Yes, this film is just amazing. The film even brings, like, a good story arc for many characters. Like, for Cap and how, he's trying to, like, save Bucky and how he cares about saving the world. Like it brings like a very great debate with how there are two characters, Cap and Iron Man, where they have different ideals and you can see the flaws in both of their ideals, but at the same time you understand why they believe that. Like with Iron Man going with the Accords, it makes sense why he wants to do it because he knows that he can be reckless, like how he created Ultron and caused the Sokovia attack, which lost many lives. But at the same time, with Cap, while the superhero work does end up getting many people killed, he understands that doing so, like doing like undercover hero work, does save millions of lives. So you understand where both of them are coming from. Yes. And then Black Panther came in and I thought his introduction was really well done. I think I like his introduction in this film more after watching Black Panther because you really get to see how much the character grew in this film because this film has a really great story arc of forgiveness for him with how he's trying to go after Bucky the whole time because he believed he killed his father, and then when he got Baron Zemo in the end, he decided not to kill him because he learned to forgive him. And that's why he saved Baron Zemo when he tried to kill himself. That's why in the end of Black Panther, when Killmonger died, he was all like, "Maybe we can save you." Yes, and that was just really good for the character, and that makes him a much more compelling character. And then yes, the introduction of Spider-Man was great. I don't know why, but I just feel like Spider-Man does much better in his team-up films than in his own solo film. I mean, yes, yes, it's good because he can banter off with other characters in these films, like Doctor Strange, Tony Stark, Cap, and them. But I mean, plus, at the same time, I just feel like the Russos are much better for Spider-Man. Like they give him more funny jokes. Like I really enjoyed his talk a lot aspect with Civil War where he was just nonstop talking and talking, and then at the point where all the characters were getting annoyed by him, like how Falcon was all like, I'm not sure if you've ever been in a fight before, kid, but there's usually not this much talking. Or how Rhodey was all like, "Come on, Tony, how old is this kid?" Yeah, and I really like how he loves to nonstop splur pop culture references. Like the Empire Strikes Back reference that he made was hilarious. And while I haven't seen Aliens, the Aliens one in Infinity War was really funny as well. And then, yeah, this one was just awesome in my opinion. It had a lot of great moments. Like I said, the airport fight was really great. They were able to nerf the overpowered characters so that they didn't like destroy too much, like Wanda and Vision, which worked perfectly in this film. And then no, a lot of people complain about Zemo, the villain, but personally, I thought he was one of the most creative villains in the MCU. With how he knows that he can't. He knows. I mean, he has a great backstory where he lost his family in Sokovia, and then he knows that he can't fight the Avengers alone. He knows he can't physically tear them apart, so he does it emotionally, where he gets Tony to try to kill Cap and ruin the Avengers. Now I know some of it wasn't exactly him, and some of it was more just the Avengers doing it to themselves with their choices. But he's the one who kind of caused this whole thing. He's the reason why Thanos won in Infinity War, because the Avengers weren't together, and they were all separated. And that's why it works in this film. And it makes this film feel necessary to the MCU. Yeah. All right. So, moving on to number 2 on the list, I have a very controversial opinion. I actually think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is way better than its predecessor and is one of the best MCU films. Now, this film can go either way with number 1, although this one's probably more number 2, because the number 1 is my. While this film I enjoy more than number 1, I think my number 1 choice, which is obvious at this point, is a much better made film, and is a film that, like, almost anyone can enjoy. My number 1. And while this one is more just I love for personal level, like I do with the first one, this film just has so many like emotional moments for me. It has like so much soul put into this film. James Gunn really made this film like stand out from the other films. He put so much soul into each character in this film. Like Star-Lord, for example. Well, one thing I will say I am disappointed with in this film is that they didn't use as much Chris Pratt like charm, I'd say. 'Cause Chris Pratt is definitely my favorite actor like ever, and they didn't use like as much of his like funny like moments. Like, don't get me wrong, he had some funny moments, but not as many like Chris Pratt like charm levels, like Andy Dwyer levels, I'd say. Which at the same time I was fine with, because he was going on his own story arc where he was meeting his dad, Ego. And I gotta say, Ego is probably one of the most underrated villains in the MCU. He was very creative. I know a lot of people didn't like that they just had him, and then they didn't introduce him until the as a villain until the final act. But when I first saw this for the first time, I wasn't sure if they were gonna go with the comics and make him a villain, or if they were just gonna make him beat with his son, because they legit made it seem like he was gonna be a good guy. Like how Gamora was like, you know what, if he's evil, we'll just kill him. Yeah, I thought that kind of went against that. And how the Sovereign were kind of the villains. And I know a lot of people didn't like the Sovereign. I thought they were okay. I'll judge more when Volume 3 comes out. Yeah. And then Yondu's story arc with Rocket was really good, with how they really like related to each other, and their actions that they made. I thought that was really well done. I thought Drax had a lot of funny lines. Like, I really liked the part where Mantis touched Star-Lord and talked about how he had romantic sexual love for Gamora, and then Drax started laughing at him. I thought that was a really funny moment. Yeah, and in general, this is probably, in my opinion, the funniest MCU film. I know a lot of people didn't like the humor in this film, but I thought, for the most part, it was hilarious. And I was able to, like, laugh, like, throughout the film and still feel emotional tension with the film. And don't say I need to rewatch it, because this is probably the MCU film I've watched the most, and every time I feel an emotional connection with the film. And I don't even know how many times I've seen this film. I've seen it probably like 7 times, maybe more. I know it sounds like a lot of times, but to me, I I'd rewatch it right now if I wanted to. Because it's a film, it's one of the very few films that you could easily just put on any time and I can get a kick out of it. Yes, it's one of those Toy Stories for me. And for a while, this was my all-time favorite film. Although I kind of, I, I'm kind of mixed with that right now. But it's still one of my favorite films ever. And the visuals are amazing. They were so creative with how they were crafting every scene, like the space scenes, the Sovereign Planet, Ego's planet. Every area looks so unique with how they make the film look. Like Ego's planet, like the final act of the film where they were fighting Ego was easily the most underrated final fight scene of any MCU film. I love the fight scene. Maybe not as the best fight scene, but I loved it. It was very creative. It had a lot of emotional tension. And I mean, I felt like it would have been better if we didn't know that the Guardians were going to be in Infinity War because then we would be able to understand them a little. I mean, feel more stakes for the characters. Because really, the only character I felt was in danger was Yondu and maybe Nebula. But still, I still thought they had a lot of emotional tension with the film. And like I said, the final action scene was very creative and crazy with the fact that they were fighting a freaking planet. And the only part I thought had bad CGI was that blue gooey stuff that they had on the other planets. That looked freaking fake. That was the only problem I had with the whole film. That I could think of, that is. Yeah. And just, in general, it was just such a funny and emotional film. The final scene where Yondu dies is probably not the saddest scene in the MCU. That goes to another scene, I'd say. But before that other movie came out, in my opinion, this was the most emotional MCU moment. Because Yondu, unlike most characters, actually dies for once and doesn't come back. So it actually feels like it's real. And so it actually has emotional tension with the film. And then what was it called? The final scene where they had Yondu's funeral with father and son playing in the background was such an amazing scene. Like, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, the father and son song really makes the film feel satisfying in the end. Because when I was watching this in theaters for the first time, I was very, scared that this film was just gonna end just because it wanted to end. Like, there were many parts where I thought the movie was gonna end, and I was all like, no, don't end it! I don't know why, that was me. And I felt that really helped out with my liking of the film, because they actually made the end very satisfying, I'd say. With how they actually capped off everyone's story arc, I'd say. Like how Gamora actually felt like her and Nebula were finally able to make up with each other. Star-Lord realized that Yondu was his father the whole time, and he barely realized it now. And how Rocket learned to show his emotions out and not be such a jerk and steal batteries that you don't need. And how in the end Baby Groot went with Drax, who was the character that he was hating on throughout the entire film. Yeah. And then what was it called? This film also has some of my favorite quotes of any MCU film. Like I really like Peter's line of sometimes the thing you're searching for your whole life is right there by your side all along. I really like that quote. And I really like this is more a comedic quote, but one of the funniest lines in the MCU for me was the part where like while they were on Ego's planet, Star Lord was all like while Star Lord was floating down and Yondu was like floating with his arrow, Star Lord was all like, "Hey, you look like Mary Poppins," and then Yondu was all like, "Oh yeah, is he cool?" And then Star Lord was all like, "Heck yeah, he's cool." And then Yondu was all like, "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all." That part was hilarious. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, it definitely has like some of my favorite quotes from like any film in general, and I'm glad I was able to talk about this film because it really did have a personal connection with me, I'd say. Now, before I get to my number one choice, which is obvious at this point, even though I talk smack about it a lot in this film, just because I want to talk about the survey that I've been doing. So I asked people what their favorite MCU film was, and I got a couple of results. I talked to quite a bit of people, and I got answers from about I want to say 10 different movies, I believe it was. So 4.5% voted for Guardians Volume 2, 4.5% voted for Thor, 4.5% voted for Civil War, Captain America Civil War, 4.5% voted for Ant-Man and the Wasp, and 4.5% voted for the very first Iron Man movie. And then 9% of votes voted for Doctor Strange, 13.6 voted for Guardians, and 13.6 voted for Black Panther. And then 18.2% voted for Infinity War. And then the winner of the survey was 22.7%, which voted for Spider-Man Homecoming, actually. So it was a very different list. I heard many people say different movies. So, yeah. And so my number one choice, if you didn't guess it already, it's Avengers Infinity War. No, it's Fan Four Stick. Nah, it's Infinity War. I know I've said like a lot of stuff about this film, like how it kind of like messes with Thor Ragnarok's ending, but really I'm able to ignore that because I feel like they're gonna do something to like fix that in a way. Like I know Heimdall and Loki died, and don't give me that stupid Loki is Bruce Banner theory. I'm tired of hearing that stupid theory. I don't believe it. But yeah, but this film actually has emotional stakes. I remember when I was in the theater, my heart was pounding like crazy. Like I was scared every moment on screen that a character's life was in danger. Especially in the beginning. I knew Loki was gonna die, and I was scared the whole time. It just has so much emotional tension. Like I know with Guardians 2, I was so excited for the film that my heart was like beating like crazy throughout the week. Well, I kept that to myself for Infinity War because I didn't want the same thing to happen to me with Guardians 2 where I couldn't sleep. But then with Infinity War, I couldn't even breathe while I was in the theater, which was good because after rewatch, I don't know why it's a trend with the Russo movies that rewatching a film makes it better for you, which is weird. And then yeah, so my heart was pounding like crazy throughout the film because of fear of characters' deaths and stuff. Like I was kind of okay with the New York battle and the Guardians meet Thor scene, but still, it was a very crazy scene. Like the New York fight scene had some really good humor. You know, despite the film being very having a lot of very dark moments, they still found good ways to throw in humor, like with Thor, the Guardians, and Tony Stark. Like the get lost Squidward joke and like the stuff with Thor and Star Lord. Yeah. And speaking of which, I'm glad the Guardians finally got to meet the Avengers. Like this had like some of the funniest interactions of any MCU film. And I didn't make the same stupid mistake I made with the Avengers in Civil War. I actually saw this in theaters twice, and I got to experience probably my favorite action scene from any MCU film. The battle on Titan was just such an amazing scene. Just felt really great. I loved the interactions between the characters, and it actually had tension. Now, even though I really like the Wakanda fight scene as well, even though we have another disposable army, it was still a lot of fun seeing characters interact with each other. Like seeing Rocket interact with Winter Soldier for the first time, where Rocket was all like, "Hey, how much for the gun? Not for sale. How much for the arm?" That part was hilarious, and I always saw like a bunch of memes where, before like this movie came out, where Rocket was on top of Winter Soldier, and then Rocket was all like, "Quill, I need this guy's arm." I thought that was always super funny, and I really loved the Star Lord interactions with Thor. It really brought in a lot of hilarious parts where you know Star Lord was always like the alpha of the Guardians team, but then Thor, everyone was treating Thor like like he was like this big new guy that everyone was gonna follow, and how he was super jealous. It really fit his character. But yes, when I first saw this in theaters, one of the scenes that got me like the most, like had me like so much tension in my heart, was the scene in on Nowhere when Thanos was getting the Reality Stone. That scene got me so much when I first saw it in theaters. Like, I thought Drax and Mantis died, and I thought Gamora was about to die. Like, Star Lord was about to kill the woman that he loved to save the universe, and that scene was just so sad. Like, I almost cried watching that scene. Now, watching it now, it doesn't have as much tension, but it's still a crazy scene. But then I realized, oh, everyone's safe. Well, until you realize freaking later that Thanos had to freaking kill Gamora. I was so mad when that scene happened when I first saw the movie. I was so mad and upset, and I was crying during that scene because I have a connection with Gamora too, with all the Guardians, since I've seen those films the most. And I was just so sad when she died. And plus, I was upset because she died the one way she never wanted to die. Like, watching Guardians 1 again, she told Quill, "I would rather die amongst my friends." I mean, no, she was saying that she was surrounded by her enemies her whole life, and that she would not mind to die amongst her friends. And look at what happened. She died so that the main villain of the film would would benefit and eventually accomplish his plan. Ah, I was so upset by that. Although rewatching the film, while I was still upset that they had to kill her off, it brought in more emotional tension because watching it a second time, this really does show you that this is Thanos' movie, with how the entire film is about him trying to get all the Infinity Stones to save the universe. Very similar to Killmonger, he's a character that I feel that many people can feel you can understand why he's doing what he's doing. Like, even though the way he's accomplishing his goal is just a horrible thing, you can understand why he's doing it. And it makes sense. A lot of sense. And Thanos is definitely one of the most intimidating villains ever. Even though it does show that he is more of an empathetic villain where he only kills when he has to. Like, he only kills half the universe, and the others he believes will have peace. And he doesn't kill like. I hope it makes sense. What you, I hope what I'm saying, like, you can understand what I'm saying. But I mean, like, for example, he didn't kill Thor Although, he did destroy their ship, if that counts. And he didn't kill Tony Stark or the Guardians or Doctor Strange, even though they could have gotten in his way. He only kills them if he has to. Like, that's why he didn't stab Tony Stark until the very end of it. Yeah. And that's why I like Thanos as a character a lot. And it makes sense. And since this film had, like, so much setup from other films, they don't need to, like, spend time explaining everything. Like, they probably had, like, 2 expositional scenes I could think of. No, actually, no, I'm not going to count how many. But yeah, really, they didn't have very much exposition. So they were able to just move on straight to the action, which I'm glad they were just able to do immediately. And like I said, this has probably the best action of any MCU film. The Black Order was kind of lame, with the exception of Ebony Maw and aspects of Proxima Midnight. I just didn't really care for them. Cole Obsidian just never talked. The only memorable scenes I remember from him were getting destroyed by Tony Stark, getting his arm cut off, and then fighting the Hulkbuster. And then Corvus Glaive, I barely even remember any scenes from him. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Like BHL Hudson said, he kind of looks like a Warcraft character. But Proxima Midnight had many really cool moments though. Like I liked her line of "They'll just die alone." I thought that was a really nice line. And Ebony Maw was obviously the best of the bunch. He was really great with he had some really great lines in the film, like "Hear me and rejoice. You have all had the privilege of being saved by the great Titan. You may think that this is suffering. No, it is salvation. And your lives have contributed." Yeah. I like those lines. Thanos had a lot of great lines as well, like, "I know what it's like to lose. Feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail all the same. Dread it, run from it, destiny still arrives all the same." Yeah, I like a lot of Thanos' quotes. And one of my favorite quotes from Thanos in the film was how he was talking about how the hardest choices require the strongest wills. That was one of my favorite quotes in the film, and that creates more emotion out of when Thanos had to sacrifice Gamora. Yeah, that really made it more emotional for me, and that made you understand Thanos as a villain a little bit more. And then yes, I know you guys are gonna. I'm tired of everyone complaining about what Star-Lord did on the Battle of Titan. Where he was all like, "Where's Gamora? My Gamora." Oh no. Yeah, that scene where he punched Thanos and he ruined the plan. Now, I actually understand why Star-Lord did it. If you understand Star-Lord like I do, then you know that he's been through a lot. He lost his mother right in front of his eyes. He had to kill his own father, and then he had to watch his father figure die in his hands. That's such... And then hearing about the woman he loved, the one woman he loved. I mean, I know he kind of had a really close relationship with Mantis too, but he loved Gamora very much. He found out that she died, and that was probably like the one woman he ever loved, and the killer was right in front of him. It makes sense why he went straight to punching Thanos. Like, in that scene, I started crying because I understood Star-Lord, and I knew it was very sad that he was dealing with that stuff at the moment. And how emotional that scene for him was. And plus, if you look at it, in reality, Gamora was really like the only Guardian that Star-Lord was really able to talk to in general about like his problems and stuff. Like he always talked to her like in Guardians 2 when they first ran into Ego. Like in general, it's mainly Gamora that he talks to about his personal stuff. I mean, if you look at it, Rocket can be a jerk at times, Drax as well. Drax. Mantis is well, Mantis. Groot is very limited in vocabulary, and plus, well, he's a teenager, so he's obviously kind of rowdy. So, yeah, Gamora, while she is kind of grouchy at times, Quill was able to empathize with her. And Star-Lord just thinking about their relationship breaks my heart. I know the same thing happened with Wanda and Vision. But I mean, I didn't have that personal connection with Wanda or Vision. But with Gamora and Star-Lord, I did. And so the film just ends up being heartbreaking for me. Yeah. And I'm not even sure if Gamora is actually going to come back in the MCU. I really hope she does. But at the same time, I'm a little scared that she might not. Star-Lord for sure has to come back because everyone who died from the snap. That's another thing I want. It's not a problem with the movie, but it's more what people say about the movie that I wanted to talk about. People talk about how oh, Spider-Man's death scene is the most emotional part of the film. Did you not see Loki or Gamora's death? They might be permanent. Spider-Man's obviously gonna come back. Yes, Tom Holland gave a great performance. But I mean, anyone could have said that. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Yes. It makes sense. It's for him. But I mean, literally anyone can say that. Like, people are always saying his performance in that scene was Oscar worthy. I don't believe that. If anyone deserves to get an Oscar for this film, it's Josh Brolin with how human he made Thanos. Or heck, I'd say even Chris Pratt deserves one because of how well he performed the emotional scenes. Or even Robert Downey Jr. did so good with this film. His character arc was very powerful in this film as well. With how, like in Iron Man 3, he wanted to quit as Iron Man, but he knows that he can't because the world is in danger. Yes. I think I've talked enough about Infinity War. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, Infinity War is just such a great film. So, yeah. The MCU has just been such a great world for me. You know? Yeah. And Infinity War was probably my favorite movie experience in my life. I mean, I went with so many people. Like, that was probably the biggest group I went on with. And I got to go twice to see it, actually. I saw Black Panther twice in theaters, too. But, Infinity War, I saw an IMAX opening night. Not Thursday night, Friday night. And then I went Saturday night in 2D with two other friends. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. I know it's like an hour and 20 minutes. It's almost as long as an animated film. But I'm done, okay? Well, thanks for watching, everybody. And I hope I see you guys in the next episode. So, goodbye.